So first of all, thank you again for joining. A few more people are coming. Let me accept those people. Thank you again for joining. My name is Derek. And again, thank you that you've made time today. Now, the session is about retirement planning for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And the whole idea of this, is to go through a few topics, such as, financial management, just a little bit of time on that, and then planning for your retirement. Now, the reason why we are here, is just to give you some information about how you can plan for the future. As you start your own business, when you're in a corporate world, your company pays your pension for you, you have a contribution to SSNIT, you might have your own savings, but as you go individual, you go on your own personal journey and you have your own business, most of the time you don't necessarily have that systematic way of contributing for your pension or for your retirement. And so you might be caught into a situation where you are making lots of money now, but maybe you are not really planning for when you are 65, where your income may not come in as much as it does. And so we'll talk through some of these things today, and hopefully we should be able to finish quickly so we can have a session where you can ask questions. So before I continue, I just want to know if everyone can hear me before I proceed.
You're very loud and clear.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I just want to also introduce our speaker, Mimi. I just want to also, maybe you say a few words of introduction and then we'll start. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well and Happy New Year to you all. As Derek rightly said, a lot of Ghanaian entrepreneurs miss out on the opportunity to have a comfortable retirement because we don't plan. For the formal sector workers, we are forced to once you join an organization. But when we are on our own, we don't do that. So today we want to spend time talking about retirement planning, especially since things are changing. We are becoming more nuclear family oriented. So your nephew or niece that you expect to be giving you something every month, that may no longer hold. So this has become very important and relevant, and we'll talk more on it when I start my presentation. Thank you for joining, everyone.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mimi. I know a few more people are coming in, so I'm hoping that by the time we are about to start, we would have everyone else who wanted to join. Again, you can also share this link with anyone who you think will be benefiting from this session. So you can just forward the link to them and they can also join. It's an hour session, so there's a lot more time for questions and answers. And no matter what time you join, I believe Mimi will be very happy to answer any questions that comes even after the session is ended. So I think you will not be left hanging in terms of that. Okay. So first of all, I also want to introduce you to the company that is organizing this webinar, which is Pocketi. Pocketi is it's a business that mainly focuses on small businesses. So Pocketi introduces small business tools like currently the one we have in the market is the app, which is used for small business invoicing. So if you're a small business and you want to send invoices to your customers, you can use the app to send the invoice to your customers, and your customers will receive an invoice as an SMS and they can pay directly into your Momo account. And again, you also have a copy of the invoice on the app or on our online portal. You can always check back invoices from last year, last month, so you have a record of all your sales and your invoices and all your transactions for a particular period. Again, the invoices also come with invoice numbers, which means that, you can always have a record of which invoice number, which customer, was given for a particular transaction. If you have any questions on how Pocketi works, once the session is over, at the end, you can have the chance to ask any question that you also want to ask. I also want to highlight that in the future, right, we will have a series of other sessions. The next session we will have, the next webinar will be on financial management for small businesses, how you manage your pricing, your costs, your accounting, and your financial control. So look forward to this session coming up in February. As you can see, 82% of businesses fail because of poor cash management, right? And then, for example, small businesses mostly fail within 3 years, about 3/4 of them, and it's mainly because of some of these financial management deficiencies. So in the next session in February, we'll talk about financial management, but today's session is about retirement planning. And so I will pause here and hand it over to Mimi. I will share Mimi's slide briefly, so Mimi would take you through the session that she has. If you have any questions up to this point, you can ask now. If not, we'll hand it over to Mimi.
Okay, Derek, kindly enable me to share. I'll use mine instead, if that's okay.
Okay, just give me 1 second. It's Mimi. 1 second, let me reclaim that and then grant you. Okay, you should be able to share now, Mimi. Are you able to share or no? I think you may be on mute. Let me. It looks like you're on mute, Mimi. I think that's the, if you can unmute.
Yes, I'll be able to share just a minute.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Once again, good afternoon. My name is Mimi, and today I'm talking on behalf of Axis Pension Trust, a leading corporate pension provider. We just want to spend a little time talking about retirement planning. It's one of the very important financial planning topics that we normally don't think about, because for most of us, we have 10, 15, maybe 20, almost 30 years to go. And there are so many other financial needs that we have that we are trying to grapple with. However, if you've seen your mom, if you've seen your dad, even if you've seen your own self, you realize that you are not growing any younger. And definitely one day you would retire. I know a lot of us are not excited about this, but it's either 3 things. It's either you retire or you die. And definitely we are praying for the first one. So we definitely have to look at how we can plan our retirement so that we can enjoy it and not endure it. Okay, so we'll be talking about what retirement is and going into details with other important topics. Just like Derek said, 75% of Ghanaian businesses fail within the first 3 years. And for entrepreneurs, I think this should be a cause of concern for us. Secondly, one of the main reasons we fail is because of personal use of money, business money for our personal needs. So you tend to find out that we don't structure our finances well, and we are behaving like, the business is it's part of your finances. You have to separate it. And only 11% of people 60 and above are covered by pensions. A report by Ghana Statistical Service said that 60% of retirees in Ghana, or people aged 60 years and above, would have to continue to work to survive. That means if they didn't work, they can't even afford their basic needs. And this is alarming. 12% of Ghanaians always have an emergency fund. And this is according to Intermedia. That was a 2015 report. That means the rest of us have nothing to absorb financial shocks. And the 10% have an emergency fund in case of job or business loss. Now, this is no wonder that we have a lot of people, you realize that even though your salary is not enough, you are having to take care of a lot of requests from other people, and it's due to some of these statistics. So how do you make sure that you avoid being a burden on another person and you have a more comfortable retirement? I don't know if we can hear the sound.
Yes, let's try that out.
Okay.
Mimi, I think a few people are trying to join, so you can accept them as well.
Okay, sure. I've done that.
I think the sound may not be coming through.
Okay.
Can you check if you can share the sound? Yeah.
So for now, let's just watch the animation and you just tell me what you think was happening. Okay, so I know we may not have heard the sound, but what did you see? What did you see in the video? If I can just get one response so that I can move on.
If you want to respond in the chat, you can also put the response in the chat. Yeah.
Just one response.
I mean, we've kind of hidden the participant list. This course is being recorded so that your name doesn't show on the recording. But if you want to speak, you can unmute yourself and answer. If you want to type, you can put it in the chat. Yeah.
Should I call names? Okay, Ni, can you tell us what you saw? Just one response, it could be brief. Okay, if I'm not getting any response. So from the video, you can see a man who was working. We could see him in his work attire, goes to a chop bar, orders big food. He ordered, because you didn't hear, he ordered goat meat, apapon, all sorts of different meats to go with his fufu, and also added a bottle of beer. He saw an alert or a reminder that he has to plan for his retirement, but he said later, which happens to the best of us. And then later, when he retires, he's trying to dip into his retirement pot and something hits him. He's not getting any, income. He's trying to dip into his salary, and he's not getting any money. Now he goes to the same chop bar to buy fufu and he's unable to. He's asking for fufu 1 cedi, chicken thigh 1 cedi and all that, And this is the challenge for most people. If you should observe, as I said, observation is a good way to learn. So you see your uncle and auntie doing so well, when they are working, and then they retire and all of a sudden it's as if they never spent any time in their life working. So the question is, how do we maintain a standard of living? How do you maintain the good life you had when you were working and when you also go on retirement? I've heard countless stories of people who were even CEOs of big institutions who had free cars, this, that, when you are big like that, you have all sorts of free things, you get used to it, and then now you're thrown into retirement, and now you cannot maintain that standard of living. So this should be a cause of concern for all of us. By the way, it's not a case, it's just reality. So what really is retirement? Retirement ideally is a period of time where we cease working for money. So you've worked for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. This is the time where ideally you should just relax. You can still work, but the main purpose shouldn't be for money. That's why I said ideally. Money is just secondary, something that comes because you enjoy what you do. So for example, I have a client who is a doctor and has a private hospital. He told me that he goes in at 9, he closes at 1. It's just something he loves to do. It's easy, and he still gets money. That is what we call retirement. Okay, now it should mark a time of sober reflections, a time to enjoy life. You know, all of us, some of us sit in traffic to get to work because we have to survive. And now retirement is a time to pause, enjoy life, give back to society if that's what you value. It's also a time for pursuing life's unfinished goals. Maybe you love to teach, but teaching in this side of town does not pay. So you are a banker or you are working in oil and gas just so that you can be able to maintain that kind of lifestyle that you want. But now you're on retirement and you have planned well, you can afford to go into teaching, and that is possible, okay? Now, retirement comes with certain financial implications, and it's important that we anticipate these events and prepare adequately. Let's remember that scarcity of resources means that we have to be deliberate about putting in a plan so that our retirement is going to be comfortable. Now, retirement comes, mind my spelling mistake, forgive me. Retirement comes with many challenges, just like every stage in life. At my stage, one of my challenges is school fees, you know, and my kids and all that. But at retirement, you would have dealt with those things, hopefully, and you have a new set of challenges. Some of these challenges include healthcare costs. Okay, at retirement, your body is becoming weaker. You would need to be spending more on long-term care and healthcare. Now, as a business person, a lot of the time we think that because we are doing our own business, you know, we can do it till thy kingdom come. My grandma is 91. She had her own bakery, but she stopped, I think, before she hit 70 because she couldn't do it anymore. She had been advised by doctors to stop. I think the heat wasn't helping her. So these are certain situations you would have to stop work because of a health situation. How are you going to survive? You need to think about healthcare costs. How much is it going to cost when you go on retirement to deal with healthcare related issues, and plan ahead. For some of us who will be fortunate to live long, maybe 80, 90, you also realize that another thing you need to think about is long-term care. As I said, we are becoming more nuclear family oriented. So at first, when you retire, probably you could be in a family home and have people take care of you. That situation is no longer as it used to be. Now you have a situation where you have to probably hire a nurse, a help, or somebody to be able to support you, do things that you used to do on your own, like bath, cook, and some of these things. And they don't come cheap, they come at a cost, and it's something that you need to think about. Almighty inflation. I think if you're a Ghanaian and you don't know what inflation is by now, maybe we have to lash you a bit. Inflation is basically the changes in the prices of goods and services. So you went on retirement with a plan that you would spend 2,000 a month, and all of a sudden prices of goods and services are going up. What does that mean? It means you need more money, and that poses a challenge to you. How do you ensure you plan adequately so that even when prices of goods and services go up, you can still afford a comfortable retirement? Low pensions. In Ghana, pensions are really, really low. A significant number of people earn less than 1,000 Ghana cedis. As at the last time I had the statistics, that was 2021, we had 53% of Ghanaian retirees earning 1,000 Ghana, which is peanuts right now. It cannot do much. So the question is, with these low pensions, and our low pensions are normally because we normally have a low basic salary. So you may have someone taking home a huge amount of money, but their pensions, their basic salary is low. Even as a business person, for those of us who are paying SSNIT, because we don't want to pay so much because we have better use of our funds, you realize that we would like to pay something very little. And that means that we would end up with low pensions. And even when you pay on something big, you wouldn't have as much as you used to have when you were working. So how do we deal with that challenge? Also, volatility. Now, this has become very, very, has come alive in these times. You went on retirement during maybe, let's say, Mohammed's time, where treasury bills were 25%, and you knew that with 100 Ghana cedis, with 100,000, you were going to get 25,000 Ghana cedis every year. So you divided that by 12 and you were getting around 2,000 and you were okay with that. Then the early part of the NPP, we're having lower percentages. We had 12, 13%. So that same 100,000 is now fetching you 13,000. Then it went high, and now they are saying, debt restructuring. So the volatility, the highs and lows, it also poses a problem for you. How do you deal with this? Longevity, we are all praying for long life. I don't know who here has been praying for God to kill them. All of us have been praying for long life. And what does that mean? It means that the longer we live, the more money we need. If you're living just for a year after you decide to stop your business or give your business to someone to handle, you may not need as much as if you are going to live 30 years after. So these are some of the challenges that we may be confronted with, and it's important that we also plan adequately. Now, in this graph, you see two things. We have what we call human capital, and we have what we call financial capital. So for a business person, let's assume you started your business at the age of 25, you have so much energy, you have so much time to exchange that time for money, whether it's goods that you are selling or services you are providing. But you realize that every month, that ability to work for income reduces, because as I said, you are aging, and the number of years you have to work actively changes, because as I said, we are all human, we grow old someday, you cannot do as you used to. Now, as this reduces, ideally your financial capital should be increasing. What does that mean? Part of what you've been able to get out of exchanging your human capital, you should be setting some of that money aside so that when your human capital goes down, you can rely on your financial capital. A lot of the time, we don't do anything about the financial capital. We are more focused on just the human capital, forgetting that one day it won't be there as it used to. And you retire and realize that you have no money, and all of a sudden you are poor just because you did not plan adequately. So as you are working every day, ask yourself, are you converting part of that into financial capital, so that when your human capital or your ability to earn money diminishes, would you be able to have financial capital to support you throughout that period? We've spoken a lot about what retirement is and the need to plan for your retirement. Let's talk about your retirement goals, okay? Now that you know that there's a need, what are your retirement goals? And when I talk about retirement goals, I'm just basically saying, how would you want your retirement to look like? Would you want to be spending time with friends and family, traveling around the world? What would you all want it to look like? That is where retirement planning starts from. If I want to be sitting at home watching TV3 every day, the kind of effort I need to put in is different from somebody who wants to travel around the world and start a business and do all sorts of things. So we need to start thinking about, what do I want when I retire? And if this is difficult for you to think about, just think about, when I'm 60, how would I want my life to be like? And then have that picture and work towards it. Now, as I said, this may be difficult for some people to figure out. So I just have a few pointers in my next slide to help you be able to picture this. So some retirement budget considerations. And let me say that another way of looking at your retirement goal is looking at your retirement budget, because you know your budget determines your lifestyle, okay? So let's look at housing costs. Are you going to be spending on rent? Are you hoping to rent? I know for a lot of Ghanaians, whether you're a business person or you're an employee, this is not your portion. In fact, that's one of your prayer topics, that you have your own house. But that also comes with maintenance costs. Okay, something we need to think about. You pay electricity, you pay water. Then we have healthcare costs. I've spoken about that already, and long-term care. Now remember that we'll continue to make expenses towards day-to-day living, like food, clothing, transportation. The fact that you have retired doesn't mean these things cease. These things will continue. Also, entertainment. Remember that now you have all the time in the world. You can go to restaurants, you can watch, you can do whatever you want, but it comes at a cost. Have you planned towards it? Or are you a fun-loving person, but you end up staying in your house because you haven't planned for your retirement? And remember that that can also cause depression, right? So the entertainment is also very important. Now let's look at travel. Travel is very essential for the average Ghanaian retiree, because I'm told that as a person, if you don't go for people's funerals, they'll also not come for yours. I don't know how that is an issue, but it's a thing. And so that means that even without knowing, you may be traveling to Kumasi, Volta region here, tomorrow you are here going for people's funerals so that other people will come for your own. And that comes at a cost. The hotel cost, flight, fuel if you're driving. For those of us who also want to enjoy our retirement and travel around the world, this comes at a cost, and it's something that we need to start thinking about. I've realized that a lot of Ghanaian retirees, at least those that I've interacted with, want to start projects. And by project, they mean they want to build, they want to start a business, they want to change their car, either to a bigger car, or they think that now they've retired, they want to buy less fuel, so they want to buy a smaller car, whichever. These are big ticket items. These are big purchases that you have to plan towards. You don't just get up and use your retirement benefit to buy these things, and then you realize that you don't have money for day-to-day expenses, which is a major issue or challenge that most retirees go through. Also, other wish list sort of things. I've spoken a lot, and I'm sure you are wondering, so how much really is enough? You know, this looks a lot. How much should I be working towards? Globally, you're encouraged to work towards 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income. And when I talk about pre-retirement income, I'm saying that the income you earn before retirement. So let's assume that you had your own business and you were paying yourself 2,000 Ghana cedis a month, averagely, because I know for business people, it can differ based on the situation, but averagely you are paying yourself 2,000 Ghana cedis a month. Per this rule of thumb, what we are saying is that you should work towards 1,400 to 1,600 Ghana cedis at retirement. So at retirement, you should be taking at least 1,400 to 1,600 to maintain a decent lifestyle. In Ghana, the situation is different. And why? It's because of our social-cultural setting. So even though I said the nuclear family is becoming more of the focus than the extended family or the communal living that we were used to, you still realize that as a Ghanaian, you probably need to support a family. There are retirees that are paying for a nephew's school fees and niece school fees. And as I said, in Ghana too, you would have to go for all sorts of ceremonies. You can't go with your hands empty. You'll go and support a funeral here, a funeral there, a wedding here, naming ceremony here. So because of that socio-cultural setting, a pensions consultant advised that we work towards 100%. That means that as a business person, if you were paying yourself averagely 2,000 a month, you should be targeting 2,000 a month at retirement. Or let me say, when you decide that you can't work on your business anymore, you either want to give it to somebody to continue or you want to close it, you should have at least something that can give you 2,000 Ghana cedis a month, assuming that was what you were taking averagely before you decided to take that decision. Now, I know that this system is for the formal sector, but it's something that the informal sector, or let me say the self-employed people, can also take advantage of. So I would go through the pension system in Ghana and which ones you can take advantage of. So in the past, what we knew was that when you're working in Ghana, you can do SSNIT, and even the self-employed people were allowed to do SSNIT. And when you go on retirement, you get some benefits. That has been replaced with what we call the 3-tiered pension scheme. Under that, we have 3 baskets, and the last basket has 2 baskets. Okay, so the first one is tier 1. It's still SSNIT. It's mandatory for those in the formal sector, but for voluntary for self-employed persons. So as a self-employed person, you can decide to do SSNIT or not decide to do SSNIT. I will always encourage people to do it, and I'll come to why. Now, this is managed by SSNIT. Normally it's 13.5% of your basic salary. So for a self-employed person, you would have to determine what your basic salary is. Of course, it doesn't have to be below the minimum wage rate. I think SSNIT, the lowest they accept is 50-something Ghana cedis contributions per month. So you can visit SSNIT and get to know what that is and then pay. But you will determine what your salary is. If you have a more structured institution, where you have employees and you structured everything, and that one you do it the way the formal sector does it. But if you have your own small business you're managing, you go to SSNIT and say, my basic salary is 3,000 and I want to pay for that. And normally with the business people, they are more flexible. With the self-employed people, sorry, they are more flexible. I think they have payment plans. So you can visit them and check this out. So what SSNIT will do is that at retirement, they'll pay you monthly pensions. Now, we all know that we need some money and we need it monthly. And I've been saying that in all these times and all these ups and downs of debt restructuring and all this drama with investment, at least if you had SSNIT pensions, it will be paid to you. And that's the importance of insurance as part of your investment, your financial portfolio or your financial plan, sorry. And SSNIT does. SSNIT is an insurance. So as long as you meet the criteria, they are going to pay you. So make sure that if you can afford to, you are doing your SSNIT. For those of us who were on SSNIT before 2010, SSNIT will be paying past credit. You can visit for time's sake, you can visit their website to know more about the past credit. Since it won't affect most of us here, I wouldn't talk or touch on it. Now, let me add that to be able to benefit from SSNIT pensions as a self-employed person, you should contribute for 15 years or more. 15 years or more, and this is whether formal sector, informal sector, 15 years or more. What will happen when you don't do 15 years or the 180 months? They'll just give you a lump sum plus a percentage of the prevailing T-bill rate, and they are done with you. Now, remember that the purpose of this is to get a regular guaranteed income. So make sure you meet the criteria. Then we have tier 2. As I said, under the old law, SSNIT was giving monthly pensions and a lump sum. Now, SSNIT is just paying monthly pensions. So what happens to the lump sum? It's been hived up into what we call the tier 2 scheme. It's also mandatory, but for self-employed people, you wouldn't find a lot of them doing tier 2. They would rather do tier 3. I'll come back to that. However, if you have a structured business, you can register your business for tier 2. And pay for all your employees. So if you have a business like that, you can do that. But if it's just you, you can go with the tier 3 scheme. So this is mandatory also. And once you have workers, you have to pay for them. This is managed by a licensed trustee. We have more than 20 licensed trustees for you to choose from. Of course, Access is a trustee of choice, but there are more that you can choose from. Also, this is 5% of your basic salary. As I said, if you're a structured institution, we know what A is getting, what am I getting, what Akutia is getting. So we know the basic salary. You pay 5% of that to your tier 2. Now, unlike SSNIT, tier 2 is paid as a lump sum, and it's a pure investment. As I said, SSNIT is a defined benefit scheme. Tier 2 is a defined contribution, a pure investment. And this is part of the reason why labor unions were on strike, trying to make sure that their pensions are protected, because if there's a debt restructuring, it's definitely going to affect their tier 2 because it's a pure investment. The same with tier 3. However, tier 3 is a voluntary scheme. In fact, tier 3 was designed for self-employed people, so you can contribute to a tier 3 scheme if you're a self-employed person in addition to your SSNIT. You can also decide to do it alone if you don't want to go with SSNIT. I normally advise to do the two because I said insurance and investments are all important parts of financial planning. So tier 3 is voluntary. Nobody is going to harass you if you do it or you don't do it. Just like tier 2 is managed by a licensed trustee. For those in the formal sector or who have more structured businesses, beyond tier 1 and tier 2, you can also pay up to 16.5% of your basic salary to the tier 3 scheme pre-tax. What that means is that it reduces the income taxes of yourself and your workers. That is if your business is structured. If you are already not paying taxes, I hope you repent, but if you are paying taxes, maybe you are paying income taxes for just yourself, this is a way to reduce the amount of income tax you pay. In fact, for those who are doing just tier 3 and are not doing the SSNIT, you can contribute up to 35% of your basic salary before paying taxes. So that's a good amount of money. If it's 2,000 Ghana cedis, that's 700 Ghana cedis that you can contribute towards your pensions before paying taxes on the rest of the 1,300 Ghana cedis. And we know that it's graduated too, so you realize your taxes reduce. So look into this, and if you can take advantage of it, especially for those of us who pay taxes, let's do that. And once you are taking advantage of taxes, the law is saying that if you are withdrawing before 10 years, you have to pay me back my 15% because I was giving you free taxes so that you can save for long. But if you decided to take your money before time, give me back my taxes and you can take your money. However, if you're able to stay in for 10 years and more, you can take your money without any taxes. Now, remember that with the tier 3, you can withdraw. So unlike the tier 1 and tier 2, in fact, just before this, I received a call from someone who wanted to withdraw from her tier 2. She has migrated. And I'm like, according to the law, once you are Ghanaian, you cannot withdraw from your tier 2, even if you are dying. So that's just so that you know. But with the tier 3, there's flexibility. In fact, you can even use it as a collateral for a loan. You can also use it as collateral for your first primary mortgage. So tier 3 schemes are really good. This one is not an official thing, but people even use the statement when they are applying for a visa. So it's a good thing. I think you should look into it. As I mentioned, SSNIT is an insurance, it's a defined contribution. Now to benefit from SSNIT, you should have contributed for 180 months. That's 15 years, 180 months. Now SSNIT takes into consideration your best 3 years salary when they are calculating your pension. What does that mean? It means that as much as we are tempted to quote the lowest amount so that we pay something small, whatever you pay can affect your outcome. So if you are interested in getting something decent, pay your SSNIT pensions on something decent. The last factor that comes when that affects your pensions is how long you contribute for. So if you haven't started paying your SSNIT and it's something that you want to do, I would encourage you to start as soon as possible, because the longer you invest for, the more money you get. The most you can get is 60% of the average of your best 3 years salary, but you can also get the minimum of 37.5%. In between, there are different percentages that you can also find out on their website. So as much as possible, try to contribute for as long as you can so that you have good pension benefits. Okay, so beyond the formal pension arrangement that has been provided, some of us hope that, you know, our business can sustain us when we go on retirement, which is great. But that means that from the onset, you have to start structuring your business. I'm sure Pocketi will be providing a lot of information on that in the future. So if you're a business person, you want to stay tuned in, you need to make sure that you are putting everything in order and structuring your business so that you can leave it to another person to be able to continue from where you ended and probably be a shareholder and be collecting your dividends and all that. So if you want your business to be sustainable and for it to be passed on to another person, or to be, you have to work on your succession planning. Don't just do things haphazardly, because you realize that for most Ghanaian businesses, when the owner cannot work, that's the end of the business. If the owner gets sick, that's the end of the business. But we don't want that, because we want to fall back on our business. So make sure that you are putting the structures in place so that even if you are not there, the business can continue to run. And let me say that even if this is the case, it doesn't mean that you should put all your eggs in one basket. COVID happened and we saw some businesses not thrive. We saw hotels suffering. We saw the airline business suffering. So a lot of us like to put everything in business, which is not bad, but please, as much as possible, let's try to diversify. Yes, you're a business person, but put some in something else just in case, so that even if business is not working as it used to, you can still have something to sustain you when you are on retirement. We don't want to hear, oh, Namami we or shop here or this thing, and then and when she grew, all of a sudden, there's no money coming in. It shouldn't be that, okay? Also rental income, which, as I said, a lot of Ghanaians, in fact, I want to be a landlady. I want to be collecting rent, which is good. But let's remember that you shouldn't be a landlady for being a landlady's sake, right? It's an investment. So you should make sure that if it's rental income you are interested in, that you invest in knowing how you go about it. Some of us have bought properties that will take 30 years for us to recoup whatever we put in. We may not even see it in our lifetime. It's very important that if it's rental income that you want, if it's an investment, that you sit with a professional, you sit with an expert, do all the analysis and go for an option that will be able to meet your needs. Then we have investment. So under investment, we have treasury bills, we have bonds, not only government bonds, which have become very unpopular these days. We have corporate bonds, we have stocks, we have all sorts of investments that you can look into. So don't give up on investments. There are still a lot of opportunities outside. Don't say that, oh, what has happened with investment, I'm not interested again. No, do a little bit of homework. And as I said, seek expert advice. And when I say seek expert advice, someone you trust, not someone who is trying to push a product down your throat. Someone you trust to be able to show you what other opportunities exist. Then there's friends and family, there's children and family. Please, for all of us here, I wish I could write names so that I check in the next 20, 30 years to be sure that we are not using this option. If your children, by the grace of God, do well and they bring you money, that is extra, but that shouldn't be your plan, that I'm going on retirement and Amma will give me 5,000. What if Amma doesn't have a job? Look at the economy right now. Look at people finishing schools. How are they even getting jobs to take care of their family? And even when they get jobs, it may be something small and there's so much pressure on that 2,000 Ghana cedis. How would they even invest and make something of their future and even get married and be able to take care of their family too? So please, 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 this is very important, because in Africa, this is a challenge. Let's, as much as possible, not make our children our retirement plan. If you wouldn't leave anything for your children, just plan not to be a burden. And I'm sure they will be very grateful for you. When they get something, trust me, they would love to share it with you, because you have been very instrumental to where they are. And mind you, you can do all of these things. As I said, diversification is very important when it comes to investing, because you realize that if you had diversified, I heard a retiree saying all his money is in bonds. And I was just thinking, if he had diversified, yes, he would have been affected by this debt restructuring, but it won't be all his money. So diversification is a very important tool for risk management. We've spoken a lot, but I want you to take a minute and ask yourself, what will be my source of income at retirement? Let's assume I have a shop and I can no longer go and sit at the shop like I used to. and for some reason I have to close the shop, or the shop, or for whatever reason I am no longer able to work, what will be my source of income? Have I positioned my business to be sustainable to the point where it can generate an income for me where I'm not there? Have I invested in the pension space so that I can get my SSNIT, I can get my lump sum for my tier 2, that's if I have a structured business, or I can get another lump sum for my tier 3. Do I have other investments that I can tap into? These are the questions I want you to ask yourself. And if your answer is no, it's no problem. There's always a time to start, and that time is now. So what are a few tips I'll leave with you? I've said a lot. Number one, as I said, for every Ghanaian, you can contribute up to 35% of your basic salary towards your pension before taxes are slapped on the rest. So that's 13.5% to SSNIT, 5% to your tier 2, 16.5% to your tier 3. If you are not doing, if you are not in the formal space, you can do all the 35% in your tier 3, and that is fine. So make sure you've maxed out on this. If you've been able to do this and you really want to have like a very, very good retirement, you can decide to add 10% of your income towards your retirement. But at least even if you won't do this, do the first one. The second thing is to have an emergency fund. So especially for business people, when they want capital, let's say you decided to do this and is doing well. Now you want capital, you come for the money, and then you go and use it for that. There's an emergency, you come for the money, and you go and use it for that emergency. You realize that by the time you decide that I don't want to work anymore, you have nothing to fall back on. You started well, but you weren't consistent. So have an emergency fund, which is basically 3 to 6 months of your living expenses that you set aside just in case of a medical emergency, an issue with your car, any large emergency that your income, your normal salary will not be able to take. At least you can dip into this emergency fund. In fact, for a business person, if your income is not stable, if today you get 2,000, tomorrow there's nothing, the next day you get 5,000, the next month there's nothing, then you need more in your emergency fund. So for a business, if you are your income is not stable, I advise you look at 12 months. So if you spend 5,000 a month on your needs, your rent, your water, those things that you need to survive, just multiply the 5,000 by 12, that's 60,000. Make sure that it's set aside somewhere so that in case of emergencies, you can fall back on it without touching your retirement savings. As I said, plan for capital expenses. If there's anything huge you want to do, you want to expand your business, you want to do, don't just do things haphazardly. Have a plan for your business, maybe a 5-year plan that this is what I want to do. And as you generate income, you put some aside, you plow back profits into the business, knowing that you want to buy another machine to expand. Don't use money that is in your retirement plan to go and do that thing. Okay, as I said, don't use money in your retirement plan to go and do that thing. Otherwise, you miss out on the opportunities from that, unless it's very necessary, but I'm trying to discourage this as much as possible. Now, consider inflation. 5,000 yesterday is not the same as 5,000 today. So you can't say that I'm going on retirement 20 years, I'm okay with 10,000, so I'm going to plan with 10,000. It doesn't work that way. And that's why I said you need to see an expert. If you need help with what figures you should be working towards, I'm available. I can do that. Healthcare costs, longevity. Look at the oldest person in your family. How old are they? My grandma is 91. So I have to plan as if I get to 91, I will still be able to enjoy my retirement. Increase your contributions as your income increases. As a business person, when business starts booming, you increase your salary. In fact, I had a friend who was earning very low. She started her own business, and the last I heard, she was earning a lot of money. So if that is you, we thank God for your life, but increase your income, increase your contribution as your income increases. Don't forget about your future when your breakthrough comes. Also, avoid withdrawing from your retirement savings. I've mentioned that. Also, monitor your pensions. Monitor your pensions. And if there's a need for you to change your strategy, change something, change your goal, then you change it. Don't just be there contributing, not looking at what is going on, and then you retire and have a shock of your life. Monitor your pensions and make sure that you ask questions. Last but not the least, if there's anything that you have to do, I've spoken a lot in this presentation. If anything came up to you that I have to do this, please start now. And even if you are not able to afford anything big, start with what you can. And as things improve, you improve. At least you would have built a habit. This is just to give you an idea of how your small money can become big money for you over time. In fact, I should have taken this thing out, but let me use it. We are in uncertain times, so I'm not promising anybody any interest rate. This is just talking about compound interest and how your money, small money can work for you over time. So I'm saying again, that is no guaranteed money. It's just talking about compound interest. So compound interest basically means that you are 30 years, you have your shop, maybe your mother care shop. You've decided that you do 200 cedis towards your retirement. That is what you can afford with ease, and you do that monthly. Now, by the time you are 60, that money, let's assume you don't increase that money with an interest rate of 18% averagely, you would have 2.8 million by the time you retire. I'm sure you're saying 2.8 million. What would they do by the time you retire? That's why we encourage you to increase your contributions as your income increases. But this shows you how little drops of water can make a difference. So please, 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 as I said, it's just your 50 cedis, your 100 cedis, your 200 cedis. Start doing something towards your retirement. As your situation improves, you can also improve it. You can also diversify. You can also look at other opportunities, but don't close your eyes and not do anything for your future. Other considerations we need to think about as business people who are planning for retirement. Health. Health is very, very important when it comes to retirement. You realize that for a lot of retirees, they spend a lot on healthcare. For those of them who were able to invest in their health when they were younger, even though they may not spend as much. So I would advise you to start eating well, drinking a lot of water, and I'm also speaking to myself, exercise and try and stay active. Don't be sitting at your desk. If you have a shop, you are sitting there the whole time. Try and find time to walk around so that you are fit. Take care of your mental health. It's not every fight that you go and fight. Make sure that you are mentally okay. And then also, as I said, set aside funds for healthcare. And look, you can also look into health insurance beyond what government provides. Also, social life. It's very interesting. Last year, I was speaking to, I had the opportunity to speak to people about to retire. And one of the experiences of the retirees, especially the men, was that they didn't invest in their social life when they were working. When they go home, they don't mind anybody because they have friends in the office, just to retire and realize that now they didn't have anybody, and then they fall into depression. So I would encourage you, if you are one of them, try and build strong and healthy relationships so that, especially with your family, your wife, your husband, so that when you retire, at least when you say honey, nobody, they'll respond to you. You understand? Or your children will want to know you. But if you spend all the time chasing the money and you don't invest in these things, when you retire and you have all the time, nobody is going to mind you. Also, Old Students Association. I'm not very good with that one, but if it's your thing, you can also consider it. Also, religious groups. It's at this time where some of us want to become pastors, we want to go and do all sorts of things at church. In fact, my mother is an intercessor. Just give her your problems and she will fast and pray for you. So these are some of the things that we consider when we are going on retirement. Our social life. Make sure that you are investing. It's not just money. Invest in relationships so that you benefit for it in the future. Then also let's talk about accommodation. As I said, if you're going to own a house, is going to come with maintenance, renovation. You tend to see a lot of retirees' house looking very old and very interesting. If you have money, it will be different. Sometimes it's the lack of money. So make sure you are planning for this. If you are going to be renting, you need to think about the cost of renting. And let me say that it's not everybody that is supposed to own a house. It depends on your situation. There are people who say, oh, their children are outside. Nobody is interested in any house here. So they'll rather prefer to rent. When they die, everybody should take their matter somewhere. It depends. Don't be forced to do something that does not work for you. Also, if you are intending to live with family, remember that that comes with its own nuances. Start psyching yourself for that. Also, occupation, what you do with your time at retirement is also very important. You tend to see that a lot of the time we don't think about this. We retire and all of a sudden you are bored. Then depression and some of these old age illness come with doing nothing and your brain just being inactive. So let's start thinking about hobbies. If you like business, start thinking about what business you can do. In fact, start it whilst you are actively working so that when you retire, even if you are putting your money in the business, it's scalable. Don't go and put your money. You've seen Ajwa Mame selling ice water. You don't know anything about ice water. You go and start and then it collapses. Start, make your mistakes, bounce back, and then when you go into retirement, you can scale it. If it's consulting you are interested in, how are you building your network so that when you say you are consulting, people are interested? Mentoring, partial employer, how do you position yourself to be able to take advantage of some of these things? If you also want to support family, make sure your family members are interested in giving you their babies to support. If you've been careless, nobody is going to give you their baby. Religious activities. You've sinned that, now you say you want to be a pastor, nobody is going to mind you. So try and start thinking about how you can position yourself well to be able to take advantage of these opportunities when you retire. To sum it up, how your retirement will turn out or retirement planning takes into consideration how long you save, how much you save. As I said, the longer you save, the more money you are likely to get. How much you save, the more you are likely to get. The return is also important, but let's be careful because some returns can get you into trouble. When you retire, if you retire early, you need more money because you have a longer period. Let's assume you retire at 50 and you hope to die at 85, that's 35 years. But if you retire at 60, that's 25 years. So when you retire, it's also important. That determines how much you need, how much income you seek to sustain yourself. There are people who are okay living off 5,000 a month. In fact, there was a retiree I spoke to a while back that said he receives 11,000 from SSNIT. I'm sure right now it would be more, and it's not enough for him. There are others that is an answer to their prayer topic. So how much income you need to sustain your lifestyle must definitely be featured in your retirement planning. How long you live. The longer you live, the more money you need. Inflation and healthcare costs. As I said, I'm a representative of Axis. My name is Mimi. I'm a financial advisor with Axis. And at Axis, we have various solutions depending on your needs. So if you are a structured business and you need a tier 2, you've not started your tier 2 yet, and you want to make sure that your employees don't suffer when they go on retirement, because after a certain age, you let them go. Make sure that you are doing their tier 2 and tier 2 for them. And if you are kind enough and you have the money to, you can consider a tier 3 scheme. If you are on your own, or even if you are in the formal sector, or you are a self-employed person, you can also consider a personal pension scheme. As I said, is voluntary. So you can consider it as an additional way of contributing towards your retirement. Once you go on retirement, if you need an income drawdown plan, you can also reach out to us to support. These are the few clients we manage, and we have various channels for you to engage with us. So let me take any questions if you have any.
Yeah, so Mimi, thank you very much for this session. I know the time is going a little bit, but we have a lot of questions. I hope we can, go through all the questions. So I'll start, from the very first question that we got. So the first question that we have, it's about the current situation of the economy. With the haircut and all of those things. How do that affect any personal pensions? So maybe briefly, if you can give us, some pointers, because we're worried about if I put my money in bonds, is the government going to say there's going to be debt restructuring? How do I navigate that?
Yeah, I think that is a good question. Unfortunately, we are in very uncertain times, which has even made financial advisory a bit more difficult than it actually would have been in normal time. There was a labor union tried to get pension funds to be exempted, and that was what was said, that pension funds are exempted, but the debt restructuring process hasn't ended. We don't know what pension funds have been exempted means yet. And so we are waiting for that information. But there's still some level of uncertainty, just that, labor union is quite strong. And so let's see what that comes with, whether pension funds, as the minister said, will be exempted totally or not. But pension and retirement matters are long-term issues. And that means that even in ups and downs, you continue to invest. Okay, now remember that with the restructuring, the major issue, especially with pension funds, because we don't do mark to market. So the major issue is going to be with the interest rates that are going to be expected. And that is where you fall back on the professionals to make the most out of the monies coming in, because in all this, people's here too are still coming. They are mandatory payments, so they are still coming. So you have to make the most of whatever monies that are coming in accordance to the pensions guidelines. So as much as possible, we are trying to make the most out of that. However, for now, they say we are exempted. We are waiting to see what that means. So let's see how it goes. But as I said, pension funds are long-term investments, so you don't have to worry about short-term volatility or issues.
Okay, the next question is
then let me add, also you diversify. Okay, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah.
Okay, next question says, can you do tier 3 alone if you are unemployed?
Yes, you can do tier 3 alone.
Okay, thank you for that. Next question is, I think I might have already responded to this, that, it looks like what we're talking about is contributing to, it's more of if you have a salary, then you can take some and put some in pensions. But what if you are a small business or entrepreneur? And I think I already replied that even if you're a small business, we'll have a few sessions next month and next 2 months where we'll kind of explain or touch on this. You should still pay yourself a salary, even if you are an entrepreneur or a small business owner. If you don't pay yourself an income, it means that, then how are you going to set some of the income aside? So that is the response that I gave. But I don't know if you have anything to say. The person is asking that this looks more like a structured program, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. What if you are a small business or an entrepreneur?
If you remember, I spoke about the fact that even with SSNIT, for self-employed people, they have a plan. So I think the last time I spoke to them, they had a plan where you can pay, let's say every 3 months, you can go and pay. So if it's 50-50-50, you can go and pay the 150 at the end of 3 months or 6 months. They even had 1 year. So just go to them and ask and see which plan would work for you. And because we all know that self-employed people don't have structured incomes like those of us in the formal sector. Also with the tier 3, I said it's voluntary. And even if you don't want to do SSNIT, with the tier 3, if you have, maybe today you have 5,000 and you put it in, tomorrow you can decide to bring nothing. So it's very flexible. You can put it in monthly, or you can decide to put one-off, depending on what works for you. So there's a plan for everybody.
So if you win some lotto, you can just go and put the money in tier 3. Okay, that's thank you for that. So next question is that since the financial sector in Ghana is collapsing, which I don't think it is collapsing, but all the things that are going on in Ghana now, how secure would the investments be? I think you already touched on the fact this is a long-term thing and not a short-term, but how secure would that investment be?
I think that in fact, globally, things are generally, it's a recession. So things that we were comfortable with normally or now are not so comfortable. But as I said, it's a long-term investment, and long-term investment requires you sticking through even when times are down. Okay, so as I said, these are pension funds, they are patient funds. It's not like some money you are putting in an emergency fund where when it goes down and you need the money now, you have to withdraw at a loss. It's not that. These funds will definitely recover at some point, and you don't want to have missed out because you were too afraid to start. And even for those of us who started a while back, and we still have money, at least in my pension funds, I still have money that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't done anything for my retirement. So you are always better off doing something. As I said, when it comes to pensions, I think that having a mix of insurance and investment is also important, because as I said, SSNIT will give you a guaranteed income because it's an insurance. Your investment will make the most of your money in terms of growth because it's an investment. So having these two also helps you have a balance. So if you can afford to do the two of them, but if you can't afford to do the tier 3, as I said, it's a long-term investment and will definitely pick up from wherever we left. And apart from, we don't do only government securities, there are other investments that pension funds allow, we are allowed to invest in. It's not just government securities.
Okay, another question came through earlier about, do you have any calculator where I can put in to say, I want to earn, when I retire at age of 65, I want to earn this amount of money every month. How much do I need to contribute now to be able to achieve that? Do you have anything like that people can use to estimate?
Yeah, you can contact me. I'll be able to help you with that. Yeah.
Okay. Next one. What about saving in Forex towards retirement? I know you are not supposed to give any particular advice, but what are your general thoughts on investing in Forex? I think based on the currency, that depreciation, appreciation that happened, people are considering this as a form of investment. Yeah.
Well, from where I sit, at least my lessons from last year was to diversify. But what I did realize about a lot of us is that we move in accordance to like how things are going, right? So dollar is getting stronger, and then we all move to dollar. Then it's getting weaker, then we all move to, let's diversify. The thing is that you'll be spending in cedis anyway. So if you are going to invest in dollars, that means you are exposed to foreign exchange rates. Of course, the dollar against the cedi has always appreciated. But let's ask ourselves that, are you putting that money in an investment, or are you just going to put it in your bank account for the bank to be taking out money as and when? Then you are not really getting any value if you even look at the rate of appreciation over the years. If you are investing in a dollar assets, then that is different. As I said, diversification is key. But if you are just putting it under your bed, as some retiree told me that some of his people did, and in December they were crying, then it's really not worth it. You realize that CD investments over the years have outperformed those who just changed their money and kept it in dollars. So that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you. A few more questions are coming in. But I would probably hold on to some of these. Okay, so I think we don't want to take too much of everyone's time. So maybe I would, in case we want to get in touch with Access Pension or with yourself, how do people reach out to you? Or do they have to go to your website, or what do they do? We will share just one step back. This session will be put online for those who want to replay it. And I think together with it, we will put some links from Mimi and Access Pension Trust as well for those who want to get further information or to register or sign up or whatever they need to do. But apart from that, how do people reach out if they need to get more information or want to start planning for their retirement immediately?
Okay, so you can, as you said, check our website. You can also reach out to us on 0302 738 555. I'm putting that in the chat box. And then you can also reach me on my office line. That's 026 377 8274. And so I'm putting that in so that you can also have a look at that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Mimi. Again, we also want to thank all the participants, all those who joined. As I said, we'll put a recording of this online. We'll probably put it on YouTube. We will share the links to Access Pension with everyone as well. So those who missed the session or those who want to play it back can also get access to it. Again, thank you so much, Mimi, and thank you, everyone. We will do the next session in February, so look out for it. It's about financial management. It's about taking care of your pricing, your costing, your accounting, to make sure you are making a lot of revenue and making the right revenue so you can also save towards your pension. So in the meantime, you can also reach out to Mimi or myself or the Pocketi team for any further information. So thank you once again for joining, and we really appreciate your time, and have a great evening, everyone.
Have a great evening too. Thank you, everyone.